Ukraine, Patrick, and what's the latest?
Up on screen here, we'll see this is the update for what's going on. This is Ukraine and NATO versus Russia. Just to remind people, it's not just Ukraine. We're also involved in that if you live in one of the G7 or Western countries. So this is quite possibly the most contentious and big story right now. We'll look at this. UN chief, he repeats call for military withdrawals from the Zaporizhia region. This houses Europe's largest nuclear power facility, multiple reactors. Antonio Guterres was in Lviv, depending on how you pronounce that, recently met with the great and powerful Vladimir Zelensky, and he warns that this is really dangerous. Now, Russia has been calling for the International Atomic Energy Agency to come and inspect it, because one of the things that Russia's concerned about is the different materials there that potentially could make a dirty bomb. That's one of the big, aside from just general instability of the site, causing a meltdown or a Chernobyl type event, that there are dirty bomb materials there. And if these were to fall into the hands of radical nationalist or Azov battalion types, that would basically be beyond the pale as far as Russia's concerned. But let's just go back here. Military equipment and personnel should be withdrawn from the plant. Further deployment of forces or equipment on the side must be avoided. The area needs to be demilitarized. So this is Antonio Guterres, he's the Secretary General of the United Nations. And what he's asking for there is really to open the door for someone else to come and secure this facility. So this is the sort of, Trojan horse for a UN peacekeeping force or a Western force to be inserted into this conflict. And Russia is not having any of it. They're basically saying that, that means that there is basically going to be unguarded, and if we're not guarding it and we know how to secure it, sending in any sort of other or demilitarizing it's just totally out of the question. So this is where the contention is right now. And then over on, this is RT, which is deemed by the UK government to be a Russian disinformation outlet. Here's what they're saying. Ukrainian forces are shelling the city near the plant here. This is a local official, Vladimir Rogov. He's saying that 7 shells hit the Russian-controlled city that hosts the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, largest such facility in Europe. So both sides are accusing each other. And so the Western media, of course, is going to either A, play it neutral, which the New York Times tried to do this morning, which you give them a little bit of credit for, but they're going to lean in favor of Kiev and lean in favor of Zelensky. So in terms of that controversy, that could be potentially a big problem if something was to kick off. So a lot of people are rightly hoping that it calms down and that site's secured. But here, this is what's happening on the political front. Europe is basically saying no military aid in July, the data shows, for Zelensky. So they're slowing down on their sort of aid.
Now, is that because they're losing faith, or is that because they're actually running out of what they have to give?
I think it's probably the latter. Firstly, is costing a lot. This is no longer a election victory platform point for any European leader. People are just getting tired of this conflict. They're facing austerity at home, skyrocketing fuel prices as a result of sanctions. The penny's slowly dropping for the average person, the public. Even someone who's not politically minded will be able to work out and put 2 and 2 together eventually. But this is just not good news for this guy here. So is this possible that we could be going from hero, he was hero, to zero and going very quickly? Well, let's take a look at the paper of record, the deep state's in-house newsletter in Washington, D.C. That's the Washington Post. Zelensky faces outpouring of criticism from his own people, according to the Post, over failure to warn his people of an impending war. So this is an interesting twist to this story. So when the Washington Post runs a story like this, you know that the White House is backing off a little bit, or they're trying to create a space where they can insert something in between them and their support for Ukraine. So the argument they're making here is interesting. They're saying that Zelensky's saying, well, we didn't want to panic because the economy was losing $7 billion a month. So therefore, the intelligence wasn't certain, so we weren't sure. And they're saying, no, the U.S. intelligence and CIA said it was certain. Why didn't you listen to the CIA? So this is sort of the same thing they'd attack Trump for not listening to the intelligence services. Zelensky's making this argument of economy, and they're trying to conflate this. Joaquin Flores has a great channel on Telegram, said this morning. They're trying to make the similar argument, a moral argument of lives versus economy. The same type of argument is made with lockdown and COVID. So you can see how these things are being framed right now.
Right.
So what the next thing here is that he will be blamed for losing the war. Okay, and so if that happens, and that could eventually happen, you'll see this president basically going from hero to zero, and maybe leaving on a plane out of his country to
Right.
Switzerland or something. But let's look at this image here. This is from Getty, and this is interesting. This really just tells you everything you need to know. All these leaders coming to visit him. He's still wearing the green T-shirt. He's got the military thug flanking him on the right, and then the guy in the sort of shirt tuck, Benetton look on the left. I mean, the whole thing is media theater. They're trying to portray this image of Ukraine as this kind of westernized, middle class, sort of Silicon Valley, slightly woke culture sort of that they're forming here. And they're hoping that Western people are going to eat this up and then basically tell the governments, give this guy a lot of support, more arms, more money. And the whole thing is wearing really thin, Mike. And I don't think that this stage show is not going to survive the U.S. midterms, I predict.